Hi there, and welcome to another segment of Bike Tyre Guru. And obviously, you're here with Shaun Portman as always. And this time, I don't have Bruce with me, but I've got John Harris. So, obviously, a lot of you fans and off-road fans will especially know John. Currently, an instructor at Country Tracks. Obviously, everyone knows Country Tracks. And a local and international GS Trophy champion. So, welcome, John. I think we spoke to you a couple of months back, obviously, regarding tyres. Different tyres, obviously dual purpose and adventure tyres, but today we're here just to talk about something a little bit different. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Shaun. Appreciate it. So I think if you follow the banter on social media, there's quite a lot of complaints over the last couple of months around tyres and so forth. And I actually phoned up Bruce not too long ago, and I said, but there's a bit more to tyres, than just sort of more to the bike than just tyres. There's other things that impact the handling and so forth. So Bruce asked me to come and chat to you on a couple of things. So I don't know if you have specific questions, or I can just start.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, obviously I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes down to adventure bike riding or tyres. I just ride. Superbikes, I know a lot more, obviously, and I reckon I could take you on a superbike definitely around the track, as long as you don't take any shortcuts on your adventure bike through the veld. But yeah, look, I mean, basically it comes down to the fact that a lot of guys are quick to sort of complain and blame the tyre when it's not actually the tyre's fault. 99%, over 99% of the time, it's actually got to do with either the rider or the bike itself. So just sort of take us through what it could be, what else it could be, and other than the tyre,
Okay, no problem. So firstly, let's start with the tyres, and we can take the bottom and work our way up. So tyres do play a role, but it's not necessarily the brand of tyre. There's other things that influence it. So you need to sort of match your application with what you're doing. So if I'm going down to do the West Coast and I'm all on tar, I will fit a road tyre. But if I go into Lesotho or Botswana, I'm obviously going to use an off-road tyre or an 80-20 tyre or whatever. And it's sort of understanding the limitations of both tyres when it's not used in the environment it was created for. So that does play a role. I think what some people also do is they get tyres on special, but then it's not 100% match to the size of the rim. So the size, what do you call it, circumvention, or the, let's say, 19-inch, the 19-inch or the 21-inch might work, but the width of the tyre is not necessarily the same as what was designed for the bike. So if you put a fatter tyre on a thinner rim, you sort of get coning, and under hard braking, you will get a bit of movement on the front. So I always say try and stay as close as possible to what the manufacturer have sort of specified for the bike. And another thing that the people get wrong sometimes is that they mix and match tyres. Again, sometimes I understand it's hard times, with the economy where it is, but ultimately if you have a knobby on the front and a road tyre on the back, you're going to run into problems under certain circumstances. So if you're running a 50-50 on the front, it doesn't need to be the same brand, but run a 50-50 on the rear. So it's the same type of tyre, because there's small deviations in each brand, but it's more or less the same. So that's quite important. Then if we move slightly up or still around the wheel, if you're getting a shudder under braking, have your discs looked at. Same as with a car. When a car shudders, there might be. We can't always start and end our braking, so sort of circle at the same point on the disc. So over time, discs do get warped. It's normal. It's wear and tear, and you can get a bit of judder. Neck bearings. Is your neck bearings well greased? Are they still intact? A lot of the guys get this tuck 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 sound on the head, and it could either be a lot of play on the discs. It can be wheel bearings. It can be your neck bearings. So normal maintenance. And if you feel that there's something not right on your bike and you take it in for a service, explain in a lot of detail to the person working on your bike that you're experiencing this or that, and let them rather have a look at it, because ultimately a worn out let's call it neck bearing you know, can actually, you know, impact on the safety of your ride.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
especially
definitely.
if you're a hard rider.
Get a lot of head shake maybe at high speed and
Yes,
yeah,
yes, no, definitely. So that is, you know, those are quite important parts. Then I saw a couple of posts around, you know, plugs falling out and so forth, you know, when people go on longer trips.
Yes.
You know, you have to ask yourself as a rider, do I have the ability or the knowledge to plug a tire correctly? You know, so the golden sort of secret to fixing these tires, one is not to use these worms that they put in cars.
Yes, yes.
Use a Rema tip top. You know, I don't have one here, but as that thing compresses through the hole, it creates a bit of a hook that avoids it from pulling out of the tire. So that's important. And then, as my dad said, there's only 3 secrets in life. It is lubrication, lubrication, and lubrication.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can use that blue glue, you know.
Yes.
And then the other thing is you want a tight fit, you know. So with the Rema tip tops, a small little hole is better than a big hole. The more you ream it, the easier the plug will come out. And I know there's some aftermarket tools that are quite expensive, around $400, but it stretches out that small little tip top from like 20 millimeters to like almost 45 millimeters.
Okay.
So it's very thin and you can actually force it through a very small hole. So you get a tight seal that doesn't come out. Then another thing that I saw on the forums is around head shakes. You know, so what determines head shakes? So there could be buffeting from panniers on the rear. There's a reason why some of the German manufacturers or European manufacturers put speed ratings, you know, within the cases. But ultimately, luggage on the rear also affects your sag on your bike. So if I can illustrate it, maybe the camera's quite fast. So let's say this is my bike, and this is the rear side of the bike, and this is the front side. We should actually get Bruce to draw a little motorcycle. But anyway, yeah. So let's say this is the rear. Now I'm loading either a very big passenger, or I'm loading, you know, a lot of luggage because I'm now heading to Africa. What will happen is this will happen to the bike. Now ultimately it becomes almost like a Harley. So the rake in the front changes and the bike creates understeer. So it won't tank slap,
Yes.
but it will struggle in corners.
Oh no, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So the other way is people start to jack it up because they can feel the bike understeering. But if you take it too far and the bike sort of starts running downwards or downhill, then it will turn very nicely, but at speed you will get head shakes. Now again, you know, an odd head shake from time to time is not a major issue,
No.
as long as you have proper training and you know how to power through
Yes,
it, you know.
yes.
And then obviously the ideal is always to have your bike sort of as close as horizontal as possible. Now a lot of the new bikes come out with auto leveling. Being a GS ambassador, you know, obviously, you know, I'll talk to the GS. So what the GS does is, in the past you sort of got predetermined settings, so 1 rider, 2 riders, 1 rider with luggage, etc. And what the Germans try to do is to sort of give you guidance as to, depending on your load, that's more or less where your setting needs to be. Because when it's horizontal, it sort of performs the best it can possibly perform. The newer models post 2017 has got auto leveling. So it actually measures exactly how much the bike has dropped, and then it sort of jacks it back level. That's all it does. So the front shock doesn't lift at all, but the rear compensates to ensure that the level
is correct.
Exactly, and you get the best possible sort of, you know, handling out of the bike.
Well, that's important. I mean, suspension is, I think, one of the most important things. I mean,
absolutely. What guys also get wrong with you know, with the suspension settings is maybe they ride over corrugation and it feels a bit harsh, or you know, and so forth, and they start setting preload and they start setting rebound and compression and. The best way to set your bike is probably to go to the standard setting as it was set out in the book, and then you sort of go and ride a piece of road that you know you're having problems with, and you ride it and you make notes and you make one small little adjustment on clicks, you know, and if it's going the wrong way, turn it back and then try it the other way, So let's say I'm working on rebound. It's still not right, so I take my rebound back to exactly where the factory wants it, then I start working on my compression. But your starting point will always be sag. That is the most important thing, is to ensure that my bike is running level. After that, it's just how hard the bike feels and sort of how quick the wheel gets pushed back.
Well, I always overlook that. I mean, I'm one to blame as well. I just hop on a bike and ride. I don't really take note of the suspension, especially riding adventure, because I just don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. I mean, it comes down to experience. A big part is plays experience. And just getting that knowledge. Going to places like country tracks, getting that knowledge and putting it to use. So I think that's definitely something I need to look at doing as well, is maybe taking a visit down to country tracks, come visit you and, learn these things.
I thought I could ride a bike, and then Stefan Boshoff is one of the main instructors at country tracks. He looked at how I ride one weekend. I was still a stunter back in the day before I went to off-road biking, and he actually called me afterwards, and he obviously looked at body position and things like that on the bike. And he said, do you want to come and learn to ride a bike properly? And from that, I've learned so much. Country tracks have taught me how to repair a bike in the bush, and how to ensure that it's maintained well, and obviously techniques and so forth. So, it doesn't necessarily need to be country tracks, but any form of formal training, would be good. Obviously, we are one of the two sort of official BMW trainers in South Africa, so it's a good starting point. We also have a separate sort of, like franchise, which is called City Tracks, and they actually operate in Gauteng, and that's more focused on tar riding as well. I do think it is easier for manufacturers to get it right on superbikes, and I'll explain why. So, on a superbike, if I've got a ZX10 or GSX-R, I'm not exactly. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to put a hell of a lot of luggage on. The average rider is somewhere between 80 and 100 k's. So it's very easy for them to say on suspension more or less where you need to be and what the pressures need to be.
And you're not riding in different terrain.
Exactly.
And you're riding on the road.
On the road, or around the track and so forth. So in layman's terms, for the average guy, that's sufficient. But when it gets to adventure riding, there's a bit more to the biking. It's all about sort of how do I travel? How much luggage do I want? Do I have a pillion with me or not? Do I ride normal gravel? Do I ride sand? Do I camp? Because if you camp, you've got a hell of a lot of extra stuff. You've got pots and pans and tents. So that weight factor plays a lot. And what's my type of riding? Am I a guy who normally just rides over the bumps, or do I jump it? And so forth and so forth. So, to go for formal training, it will really add a lot of value. I think it will make you. We're not there to create the fastest riders. We're there to create the safest riders. And to teach you some skills to allow you to repair your bike, in the field. There's small little things. Can you fix a throttle cable if it snaps in the middle of, a field, okay? Because there's ways to fix it. Exactly. So, or basic thing like a tire. So all I'm saying is tires do play an influence or have an influence. But ultimately, the whole package needs to work. And if the whole package doesn't work, you're not going to enjoy it as much as you're supposed to.
Exactly. So that's very important, and it's something that obviously we've tried to get through to everyone's mind here at Bike Tyre Guru. Obviously, in the past with all the episodes we've been doing, especially with yourself. But the only way really is knowledge. Knowledge and maintenance, obviously, of your motorbike, but knowledge. So that's very, very important. So, John, I really, really appreciate your time. Obviously we'll be doing more videos with you in the future as well. And it's very, very important, obviously, for us to do these videos and just to get the knowledge out there and get, everyone aware. Like myself, I think I'm going to come join you at, like I said, at country tracks. And
you will have a fantastic time, I promise you. The food's good, the accommodation's good, and the knowledge sharing is good.
Well, the food for me is the most important thing. So, I'll be eating and you guys can be instructing. But until next time, keep safe and
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.